From the studios of the WBCR radio station, it's the Bret and Sean Show. All right. Welcome to the afternoon drive with the Bret and Sean. It's a windy day here in New York City. The first day of summer. Doesn't feel like it, but hey, what are you going to do? We have a lot to get to today in the world of sports. The number to call, 718-951-4444. That, again, is 718-951-4444. But before we do that, Frank, how the hell are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Brett. I'm going to reiterate what he just said. We have a lot going on today. Little quick headlines. The people who got stranded inside the submarine in Canada, I wish they get out safely. Search is still going underway. Let's see how it happens. Number 2, Taylor Swift. She has announced that there's going to be tour dates for involving the Eras Tour, which happened at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey.
She's adding more?
Yeah, especially internationally as well. So she'll be traveling to other countries as well. And for you, Mr. Daniel Dodona, if you're listening out there.
Oh, he's listening. He hears you, Frank.
I'm sorry to say this, Daniel, but I watched a little clip of you. It's kind of a bad thing that you don't know much about Taylor Swift, so I highly recommend you listen to a song, any song you choose, and get to know and learn some of her lyrics. So, sorry about that. And then finally, Tropical Storm Bret. No, not our Bret.
Oh, jeez. Tropical Storm Bret.
Yep, not our Bret, but
what are you talking about,
Tropical
Frank?
Storm Bret has formed in the Atlantic Ocean.
Why are you doing that, Bret?
Listen, folks, I've done a lot of things, and look, I'm not perfect, but I'm sorry about this tropical storm. I'm sorry to those folks in Barbados. It is what it is. Frank is just bringing this to my attention now. I did not know about this.
It's not just Barbados, but it's also going to hit other parts of the Caribbean. It is still unknown if it'll hit the United States.
Oh, jeez.
Still too early to tell. It might go to Puerto Rico and Haiti. Too early to tell, but back to you, Brett.
Every week it's something different, Frank. I mean, first I said last week we had the COVID, then we had the Canada air, now we got Tropical Storm Bret. I don't know what's happening. You're talking about it hitting the United States possibly. Oh, geez, but look.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah.
I wonder how they choose names.
Well, I mean, Brett's a fantastic name. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. I mean, and they spelled it with one T, by the way, so props to them. Very rare.
Oh, not the double T?
No, not the double T. Oh, jeez.
No, in fact, the meteorologists use one T, so it's tied to your name.
Whoever you are, Mr. Meteorologist, you're a very smart man. But look, that was your news flash from Mr. Frank Pita, our Swiss Army knife, working both the phones and board today. But we also have Jessica working the camera. Jessica, what do you have to say?
Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to be here. Good to be reunited with my guys. I wasn't here last week. I'm sorry.
No, you were not. Where were you?
I was on vacation for my birthday.
And where'd you go?
Disney World.
Oh, God. What are you, 10?
All right. And
I secretly am. We're all 10 on the inside.
I should visit Disney World one day, so hope to go there one day. Hope you take me there. And
well, listen, next spring, me and Daniel, because Daniel's never been, so we're going to Disney. So you're welcome to come.
All right.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see.
Well, if the Jets win the Super Bowl, I'll go to Disney World. But look, nice. There you have it, Miss Jessica Lowery. And sitting to my right and to the folks at home left who are watching live, Mr. Sean Markisic. How you doing today?
Doing good, Brad. Doing good. We got a lot to get to today. A new week, and the Mets still suck.
Mets still suck. They do. Yankees getting it back on track. And, before we stress ourselves out with that, we're going to start off with the Jets here, a little more optimistic.
I have a quick question for you, Sean.
Mm-hmm.
What's with the Mets anyway? Like, why are we losing? This is upsetting, and if the Mets keep on losing, I'm about to go on tears.
Frank, they're not a good team, but they're not a bad team either. They're just the middle of the road, most expensive team in baseball.
Which is the worst. Pathetic. You're in the middle. I hate being in that kind of no man's land.
You're
place.
in the middle of the pack. You got nowhere to go.
Screw you, Lewis. All-time Yankee fans. Screw you.
Where did that come from?
Hey, relax on the Yankee bashing.
All right, Disneyland. 1 second here. We're gonna
Disney World.
Disney World. Look, we're gonna start off with the Jets here. A little more optimistic team, which is weird to say because the Jets have been losers my whole life for the most time, except
whole life too.
Yeah, well, look.
And I'm older, so.
Well, look, it's better times ahead, Jessica. And, the Jets have been rumored here to add another big-time playmaker, which I think we all could agree they have to do. Now, the question is, you have two big names available. You have DeAndre Hopkins and Dalvin Cook. Now, it's interesting because Dalvin Cook went on Adam Schefter's podcast the other day, and he said he would be interested in teaming up with DeAndre Hopkins. Now, that would be insane, obviously, but Sean, we do not see this much in sports. We see it in the NBA, but we have not seen this kind of collusion in other sports.
Well, no, in the NFL, you don't see this much because a lot of these guys are still in their prime, both Cook and DeAndre Hopkins. So, they want to make their money. They want to go where they win. They don't do this bullshit in the NBA where these two stars team up and it's like, oh, yeah, we want to go ring chase this and that. You don't see that in the NFL. You don't see that much because a lot of these guys just want to make their own money, want to be able to be on their own teams and win on their own.
And don't get it twisted. This is not a situation where, like you said, Dalvin Cook and DeAndre Hopkins still very much in their prime, still have a lot of football left to give. They're not just going to say, hey, we'll take 1 year, $2-3 million, $5 million. We'll come chase a ring with Aaron Rodgers. That's not the case, folks. Oh. If you want to bring both these guys in, you're going to have to pay for it. Now, maybe they'll take a slight pay cut. Maybe they won't go so long on the years, maybe more money up front. That's a possibility. But the Jets, Sean, I would do it because you got Aaron Rodgers probably for 2 years, possibly 3. I think it's pretty clear he's definitely going to be here 2 years at this point. He's committed here. He's juiced up. I think if you're going to go all in, Sean, especially on a guy like Aaron Rodgers, you just got to go. You just got to go all the way in. You have to sign both, in my opinion.
You have to give him the best options available. Now, look, Aaron Rodgers is here for 2 years. That's great, unless he goes on a darkness retreat, of course, and
let him go on the darkness retreat. He's not going to go AWOL.
But anyway, I think that if I had to pick one over the other, I would pick DeAndre Hopkins. Another interesting thing with Hopkins is he's interested in the New England Patriots, which I don't understand. I get that he would get his money there, but in the vision for the Patriots where you have to go up against Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, and Tua, it's not looking favorable for the Patriots. So the best case scenario for him is the New York Jets, and I think that's who they'd want.
He'd be an absolute fool to go to the New England Patriots, and I understand those rumors are there, and he's already visited with the Patriots. But look, you're in a division with the Jets, Bills, and Dolphins, and the Patriots, I'm sorry, folks, they're the worst team in that division, especially on paper. I understand Bill Belichick, maybe he'll get them to play up, and he always does, but they're a mediocre team at best, in my opinion, Sean. So I think he'd be wasting his time going there. And look, he has an offer from the Tennessee Titans, but I'm not so sure that's a great destination for him either. Who's throwing the ball? Ryan Tannehill? Who's that
so
other
you think
guy?
His best option is to come to New York?
Absolutely.
Yes. I have a question.
What's the question?
So the Jets obviously making tons of changes this offseason. Do you think they're making too many changes? Will it take away from the magic that they almost tapped into last season?
What did Einstein say, Jessica? He said if you do the same thing over and over again, that's the definition of insanity. So the Jets have not made the playoff. They have the longest drought in sports. So I don't understand.
That hard to believe. Is it really?
Well, if you were really a Jets fan, you'd know the pain, the suffering, and the misery.
But I'm talking about other teams in other sports.
Because those are the Sacramento Kings for a while.
The Jets take the cake, folks. The Jets take. We have a new caller. That's exciting. But we'll get to them a little later on. But the Jets take the cake, folks. All right? Like I said, they have been losers throughout my lifetime, and I love the Jets with all my heart, but I have to call a spade a spade. Since Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez, they've been crap. So they have not made too many changes, Jessica. I think they've made the right changes. They need to keep bringing guys in. The job's not finished. Joe D has to go out there, bring in some more talent. Sean, you said DeAndre Hopkins. I'm going to go with Dalvin Cook. Now, the reason I say Dalvin Cook is because Breece Hall is still recovering from his ACL injury. He will be back, and he's actually ahead of schedule. The Jets have him back. They think he could be ready for opening night against the Buffalo Bills. Now, I think that would be a big mistake because you don't want to rush a guy like that back. Such a young guy with an injury like that, you want to make sure he is 100% ready to go. If you bring in a guy like Dalvin Cook, you could kind of take your time and ease Breece Hall back into the mix. Now, when he does come back, Breece Hall, you think of Aaron Rodgers' success in the past with Green Bay. He's had two very capable running backs in Green Bay, and that's when he had his most success. So if you're running a package out there with Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall, that is a scary combination coming at you from the backfield. Breece Hall is a kind of punch-you-in-the-mouth type of running back. Dalvin Cook is that slippery running back, could catch a lot of balls out of the backfield. So it'd be an elite combination, in my opinion.
And, look, the most important thing is because, Jessica, you just mentioned how are they doing too much. I don't think they are, because you want to reinvent this offensive line around Aaron Rodgers. The Jets' number one priority should be to make Aaron Rodgers' job as easy as possible. And by bringing such big offensive weapons, you already have Breece Hall. If you bring in a guy like DeAndre Hopkins or Dalvin Cook, that makes his job even easier, because those are guys that could just either run or catch and create offense that Aaron Rodgers doesn't have to tire himself out to do.
Absolutely right, Sean, and I'll put a bow on it right now. You really can, I prefer Dalvin Cook. Sean prefers DeAndre Hopkins, but you really can't go wrong either way, folks, because Dalvin Cook, like I said, will lighten the load for Breece Hall. He will make his job easier, but also on the flip side, DeAndre Hopkins will make Garrett Wilson's job a whole lot easier. We all know Garrett Wilson is a stud. We've seen that connection in OTAs with Aaron Rodgers. It's been very explosive. Many players, even Aaron Rodgers, has compared Garrett Wilson to Devontae Adams. Now, he has to put on a little more weight, in my opinion, Garrett Wilson, but he is so shifty, so explosive, great hands. But bringing in a DeAndre Hopkins, he doesn't have to be what he once was. DeAndre Hopkins is still a great player. He's been injured, unfortunately, but when he played his last full season, he was great. He was the DeAndre Hopkins that we all know. And look, 2015, the Jets traded for a 31-year-old guy named Brandon Marshall, same age as DeAndre Hopkins. What did he do? Best season of his career. Jets were amazing that year. Of course, they missed the playoffs, even though they were still, they had that week 16 loss to the Buffalo Bills, which was heartbreaking. But Brandon Marshall had the best year of his career at age 31. So that's how I would compare bring in DeAndre Hopkins to bring in Brandon Marshall. But we're going to get to the phones now. Like I said, 718-951-4444 is the number to call. And first up, we've got Daniel out in Diker Heights. What's going on today, Daniel?
What's going on, guys?
Hey,
What's up,
Daniel.
All right, so first of all, I will learn a Taylor Swift song if somebody can pay me for the tickets. If someone pays for the tickets, I will learn every damn song on her playlist.
Daniel, Jessica will get you those tickets because apparently she's taking us all to Disneyland. So you get,
I told them, Daniel, that next spring we're going, and I invited them. I hope that's all right.
Well, because I heard it. Apparently, if we win the Super Bowl, then they're gonna come.
That's what I said. That is what I said. I'm not much of a Mickey Mouse
we'll see, but
guy.
I'm more than happy to go to a Taylor Swift concert with you, Dale. I'm up for it.
Well, Frank's a Taylor Swift fan. There,
We're
Swifties here at
summer.
WBCR.
I'm not a Swiftie.
Absolutely not.
I'm not a Swiftie. I don't know what you're talking
Come
about.
on, how can you not be a Swiftie? It's such a big deal if you're not a Swiftie.
The only Swift,
you guys gotta be careful.
The only Swift I know is DeAndre Swift on the Detroit Lions. So let's get it back to the sports. Enough with this Taylor Swift nonsense.
Oh my
Come
God,
on.
Brett.
Come on, Brett.
Yes, you
Brett
guys
is the general.
Go ahead, Daniel. What's up?
So, all right, let's get off the Met beat because I'm done with them. So I want to chime in on the Jet conversation real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think Dalvin Cook should get Dalvin Cook. I think he makes sense for this team just because I don't know what we're going to get from Breece Hall. And Dalvin Cook's been a 1,000-yard rusher the past 4 years, and he's not slowing down. I really don't see why they wouldn't pursue him other than his contract situation. But if it's a one-year deal, it's a one-year deal. I'm still wary on DeAndre Hopkins. I'm not sold on him yet and what he can bring, but it's absolute priority. But another thing, too, how do you guys think about this? But the offensive line, to me, is the bigger concern in this team than anything else because this offensive line either has people who are constantly hurt or have rookies. So I'm not really confident in that either.
All right, Daniel, we're going to break this down, starting off with Dalvin Cook. Yes, he has been a Pro Bowler in 4 straight years, rushing over 1,000 yards. People are concerned about his touchdown production as of late, but I credit that to just Justin Jefferson being so amazing and the leap that he's taken. He's a big focus in that Vikings offense. You also bring in T.J. Hawkinson from Detroit in the offseason, so there's just a lot of mouths to feed in Minnesota. So I don't think that Dalvin Cook is declining. I still think he's a very good player. And like I said, you bring in Dalvin Cook or DeAndre Hopkins, they don't have to be in their prime. You have Garrett Wilson. You have Breece Hall. They just need to fit in and just be themselves, and they're going to be great players. And you have Aaron Rodgers. He's amazing, obviously. Now, getting to your other point about the offensive line, yes, there's a lot of what-ifs, and the biggest what-if is Mekhi Becton. If Mekhi Becton is healthy and what he once was...
I'm done with this guy. I'm honestly done with Mekhi Becton, all right? At this point, he's eating up a roster spot, and either the guy's going to play or he's going to not. So I don't know why. What has he done that's proved to me that he can either stay healthy or stay off the snacks? So I don't know.
Well, first of all, he's never played with a guy like Aaron Rodgers. So I feel like you would have to give him a chance at some point during the regular season. But it's also like with this Jets team, like I said, they want to stock up on the offensive talent because they know they're weak there. So a guy like Cook or Hopkins, or maybe both, which I really don't see the likelihood of that happening. So, but with Aaron Rodgers, you just got to stack up on the offensive line the next 2 years. The defense is already a big menace within itself. So I feel like as long as the Jets stock up on the offensive options, they should be fine. They should at least try to make a Super Bowl appearance, if not win it all.
And back to
but real quick,
Yeah.
Do you think it's the contract that's not allowing them to get the deal done? Because I really don't see what the holdup is. Why are we waiting to the end of minicamp to try to get these guys in here?
Well, Joe Douglas is a great general manager, and he's kind of notorious for waiting it out and waiting till the last second to get that best possible deal. But I agree with you, Daniel. When you have a new regime in the sense that you have some new offensive coaches and you have a new quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, you don't want to wait so long to get the chemistry going. You got to get these guys in the building early, like you said. There's no culture in place, really. There's a culture in place, but there's new vibes, there's new energy when you bring in a guy like Aaron Rodgers and all these other coaches. So I agree with you, Daniel. You got to give these guys as much time as possible to get to build some type of chemistry.
Right, and I think, too, like we're going to be talking about throughout the year, but these are two guys who could be game-changing players on this team that take us over the top in the division. I agree. I think New England's probably the lowest of the bunch. Then it's Miami, but then it's us in Buffalo, and that's close. But I think Dalvin Cook can push us over that edge against Buffalo and put us in the conversation against the Chiefs and against the Bengals. And right now, I can't say that we're better than those teams. We're maybe on their level, but I can't say we're better than them.
Well, that's why that Buffalo Bills game with the Jets on September 11th is such a big deal, because that's the first big test for the Jets. How are they going to be able to manage going?
You have to win that game.
It's must win.
I really don't want to hear, it's evenly matched and go either way. You have to win that game.
It's must win.
That's a must-win game on Monday.
Must win. And Daniel, like you're talking about the division, these two guys have been. Don't be scared, Jessica. These two guys have been linked to the rest of the AFC East as well, Daniel. You have to remember that the Dolphins are linked to Dalvin Cook. The Bills are linked to DeAndre Hopkins. The Patriots are obviously linked to DeAndre Hopkins. What you do by signing these guys, besides making your team better, is you keep them away from the rest of the competition. That's the biggest thing for me, Daniel. It really is.
I agree. I think we have to assert ourselves as the big dogs in this division, and we have to pluck those guys from the other teams. We have to prove that we can take the big names away from the other teams and that we are the destination to be.
Well, for a guy like DeAndre Hopkins, the Jets are a way bigger spot for him than the Patriots. Like, sure, he's going to get his numbers up on the Patriots. He's going to get his money. But for him to be able to be successful, the Jets are a way better option, whether or not they get Dalvin Cook or not.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be a fool, like I said earlier, to go to the Patriots. No one wants to play with Mac Jones, let's be honest. But, Daniel, we appreciate your call as always and look forward to hearing from you next week. But tune into the rest of the show. We got a lot to talk about.
Always, guys. Enjoy.
Take it
Bye.
easy, Daniel.
Take it easy, Daniel.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, Jeff.
All right, next up on the show, we've got Robert out in Rhode Island. What's going on today, Robert?
What's going on, guys?
Oh, what's going on? We got a new caller here today, boys.
So I want to talk about the Jets, and I've been looking over their schedule a lot, and I'm really seeing maybe like an 8-9, 7-10 type of season out of them. I think it's going to take a while for them to gel.
Of course he is.
So it's going to make me cause a little bit of a slip in the beginning. I mean, I don't think they're really at the Bills level or Chiefs level yet, which is kind of, the two big things. And then Joe Burrow. How can you ever bet against Joe Burrow?
7-10, Robert? Are you out of your damn mind? I mean, we were 7-10 last season with Zach Wilson and Mike White. Now we got Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Famer. You're telling me you think they're going to go 7-10, Robert? Are you crazy?
Look at the schedule. The schedule's not an easy schedule. I mean, you got Chiefs, Eagles, Chargers, Bills. You got I think the Browns could sneak a win in there.
The
Right?
Brownies?
I have a question
Come
for
on.
Robert. So then what's it going to take for us to have more than 7-10? We're always going to have that type of schedule. That's our conference. Like, are we never going to be good because everyone else is are we never going to evolve?
And plus, that schedule is tough to start out, but it gets easier as you go along.
I mean, I don't know, because remember, at the beginning of the year, you start off with the Bills, Cowboys, Patriots. I mean, you should be at least 2-1 during that stretch. But then you got Chiefs, Eagles. The Giants is a frisky
Oh, the
game,
Giants! Come on.
Saquon Barkley's gone, and Daniel Jones ain't that guy.
Thank you.
Daniel Jones is a reliable quarterback. He gets the job done, though.
Okay, but he was passing to Saquon Barkley. He's not going to have an offensive player like Saquon Barkley on his team.
Well, I'm sure Saquon will be back, but let's. I mean, he ain't Aaron Rodgers, Robert. Come on. Come on.
No, he's not Aaron Rodgers, but he clearly can win a playoff game.
You think he's going to have a better team?
I'm sorry?
You think he's going to have a better team against the Jets?
No, I don't think they're a better team. I just think that, the Giants, they might be just run a little bit more tight. Everyone's known each other for a year, so, they're going to have that better step when it comes to, like, a game-time decision.
So, Robert, let me ask you a question, Mr. Robert. What do you think the Jets need to do to prove to you they could be better than a 7-10 team? I mean, that's outrageous to me. What do you think they need to do?
They need to build that line. I mean, that line is not a Super Bowl winning line, and they need a wide receiver. And I don't know if DeAndre Hopkins is the guy. We've looked at DeAndre Hopkins the last 2 years. Has he really done crazy numbers, or has he been more of a middle of the pack type of guy?
Rob, he doesn't need to be the guy. We got Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is the guy. Garrett Wilson is going to be a top 5 receiver in the NFL this year. DeAndre Hopkins just needs to be himself. He doesn't need to be what he was in Arizona. And they need to sign DeAndre Hopkins because you cannot let him go to Buffalo and you can't let him go to New England. So you have to sign him. He would be great next to Garrett Wilson. He'd make his life so much easier. I think it's a must-make move also with Dalvin Cook. Bring them both in.
I don't know. I just feel with the addition of the Dolphins with Jalen Ramsey, that's a corner.
You don't even know if Tua's going to be okay.
Tua can't get out of his own way. He needs 2 helmets, this guy.
Bret.
For Tua with his concussions, I actually do feel really bad for him. But, yeah, like, the Jets are better than the Dolphins. They're definitely better than the Patriots. And then it's between them and the Bills.
But when you look at everything, right, the Chiefs are going to win their division. The Bengals are going to win their division. So that's 1 and 2, right?
Okay.
You have to win the East to make the playoffs, or you're going to be a wild card team. And I don't know if the Jets are going to beat the Bills, so then that forces them to be a wild card team. The Chargers are going to be there. The Jaguars are going to be there. And then maybe some team that we didn't expect to come out is going to be there. So it's going to be a tight race for the Jets to get into the playoffs.
It is, and luckily you're a Giants fan, Robert, because the NFC stinks. And I've been saying this forever. The AFC is very difficult, and I don't know if they will win the division, but that's why Week 1 is so important. They need to make a statement, and they need to beat the Bills. And I don't think the Bills are as great as everybody says they are. They beat the Bills with Zach Milfson last year. So I think with Aaron Rodgers, they have a shot. And that's why I would sign Dalvin Cook, because you could give Breece Hall time. The Jets play them in Week 10 again in Buffalo. It's probably going to be snowing because that's all Buffalo has to offer. And then Breece Hall could be ready to go and running in that weather, because I like him in the snow better than Dalvin Cook. But Dalvin Cook could get you through the first half of the year. So obviously it's going to be tough, but I think the Jets are a playoff team.
So hold on. Who do you trust more in the playoff situation, Aaron Rodgers or Josh Allen?
Josh Allen.
No, he has not been good in the playoffs either.
He's a great regular season guy. He's not a playoff guy yet.
Last 5 championship games.
But Josh Allen hasn't done squat in the playoffs. He's had a couple decent performances, but he hasn't won anything. At least Aaron Rodgers has won something.
Aaron Rodgers has won 1 Super Bowl, and he's never been back.
Yeah, but he's on a much better. This is probably the best defense he's played with in years. This is probably the first or second best defense he's ever played with.
Packers had a top 5 defense and a top 5 offense, and they lost to the 49ers in the first round.
But this is a better defense than that Packers defense.
I don't know about that.
They have more game changers than that Packers defense.
They're young, right? These defensive players are young. 1 year, we're basing everything off of 1 year. What if there's a regression right now, right? Sometimes that happens. There's a sophomore slump.
I don't see a sophomore slump with Sauce Gardner. I think he's going to be tremendous. I think this Jets team is set up, but they do need to make one more move, in my opinion. I'm not shying away from saying that. That's why we're having this discussion. The Bills are going to be tough, Robert. I've said that. I've preached that for a long time, but that's why they need to sign a Cook or a Hopkins. I just don't agree with you that you're saying Hopkins isn't that guy or whatever you're trying to say about that. I think he is that guy, especially in a reduced role on the Jets.
I'm just saying you maybe could, wait a year and see if there's like a better receiver that comes on the market. That's all.
Robert, we love the call, but you want to wait for Archie Manning. You want to wait for another wide receiver. The time is now. The Jets' time is right now, Robert. So like I said, love the call and listen to the rest of the show, and hopefully we catch you next week.
Thank you, Robert.
All right.
Thank you, Robert.
Take care. Next up on the show, we've got Nick in Brooklyn. What's going on today, Nick?
Well, first of all, I got to give you a quick I told you so, because 3 weeks ago I told you if the Mets waited for the trading deadline, they fall into a hole, and that's just what happened. 13 games behind the Braves, so that season's over.
Yep.
Also, on the Cook issue, Douglas has to sign this guy. He reminds me of O.J. Simpson, who was a great explosive running back. Okay, he killed a couple of people, but he was a great running back. So they got to get
One of those days. Nick, we're gonna.
What's the matter? You speechless?
No, yeah, that was hilarious.
Didn't expect that, but
that was hilarious. But we're gonna touch on both points that you just said. Starting with the first one is that, speaking of killing people, the Mets are in more than a hole. They're in a grave as we speak. They are digging their own grave, and people, this is typical Mets fans. This is what they do. I'm a Mets fan myself, obviously. Monday night, Max Scherzer goes out there, throws 8 dominant innings against the Houston Astros, and you have these Mets fans getting sucked back in, and that's the biggest mistake you can make, especially as a Mets fan, is you get yourself sucked back in, and then what happens? You get let down like you did yesterday. And Verlander threw a quality start. He gave us length, which is nice. 4 runs. He had really one rough inning that kind of damaged that stat line right there, but if it's not the pitching, it's the hitting. If it's not the hitting, it's the pitching. They can't field all of a sudden. It's always something with this team, Nick. They're just not very good.
Yeah, this Mets team is not good. Their season is over. Like we've mentioned before, the Yankees are going to at least make the playoffs, but this Mets team, it's just bad. And honest question, do you guys think they rushed Pete Alonso back just to try to get off some wins? Because he doesn't look good either.
He looks bad. He's striking out left and right, and he's definitely not healthy. I mean, he came back way sooner than expected. Yeah. But, Nick, my question to you is, I know you love Ohtani, but what do the Mets have to do at this trade deadline? What could they do to get themselves out of this hole?
Great question. What you're really asking is, who are the untouchables? And I think the untouchables are Pete and the baby Mets, and the rest of the team is on the block.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, interestingly enough, they'll be getting some calls about Max Scherzer. They'll be getting some calls about Justin Verlander, no doubt about it. A guy like David Robertson as well. Some of those veterans. I know you're interested in moving Lindor. Obviously it's a big contract, so who knows?
I think Artie Moreno was just stupid enough to trade Ohtani.
I mean, he signed Anthony Rendon to that huge contract, so I'm sure he'd take on Lindor's contract no problem. And look, Nick, there's not... The problem with the Mets here, honestly, is, like I said, it's not one issue you could point out. If you look at the team last year, Sean, we were discussing this before the show, is that everyone knew the Mets needed one more bullpen arm at the trade deadline last year and maybe one more power bat. Everybody knew that. The problem is that Billy Epler did a terrible job bringing Michael Givens up the lead and not bringing in David Robertson when he should have. They signed David Robertson, but they should have brought him in at the deadline last year instead of Michael Givens, who stunk. Michael Givens was awful. And they brought in Daniel Vogelbach instead of bringing in a guy like a C.J. Cron or a real power threat. I mean, Billy Epler, folks, has done a bad job. He really has. I got to call it how it is.
But he's there to bring you Ohtani, because he got Ohtani for the Angel.
If he doesn't do it, he's gone, Nick. If he does not do it, he's fired, and you know that.
Right. And also, I got to talk about this WFAN shakeup. Now, the afternoon show, I got the perfect person to work with Evan Roberts, and that would have been Kim Jones. Unfortunately, her first obligation is to the NFL Network, but they're not giving women any throws over there at WFAN.
Well, not surprising.
Well, I mean, they had Maggie Gray for a little bit. It didn't work out. But you're right. Not a lot of women voices over there.
Tiki Jones is more boring than watching paint dry. And let's face it, if he was white, he would have never got that job.
The media tries to push all these former sports players to go into the media like you see on First Take all the time.
But you have to have a little passion, a little enthusiasm like Bart Scott. I mean,
of course.
Come on, you Tiki Barber. This guy's not going to get you any ratings. I'm telling you, Michael Kay threw a party yesterday when that news was released.
But the guy I would have went with, and this might surprise you, is Mike Francesca. bring him back. I mean, yes, I guess he's technically
You know
retired.
how much money it's going to take to bring Mike back?
It would take a lot of money. He's doing his podcast.
Truckload.
He's doing his podcasting so he could go golfing and live his life. And Mike with Evan, it's interesting. Definitely better than Tiki, because I agree with you, Nick, and we all agree that Tiki Barber was the wrong choice. And WFAN, they went from within, promoting guys from within, but I think it has an effect on the rest of the station, because now you're removing Tiki from the show with BT in the midday show, and now Sal Licata will be joining, going from overnights working to the midday show with Brandon Tierney, and that show is either going to be amazing or it's going to be an absolute disaster, because you're putting...
No, I think that's going to be amazing, actually.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I said, it could go either way. It really can, Nick, and I tend to agree that it will be a good show because I like both guys, but they're both such fiery, hotheads, passionate hosts that the mistake that WFAN made is that with the afternoon drive, they went with two guys on the flip side that are very boring. Now, Evan Roberts does a great job. He's very good at his job, but the reason he worked with Joe Benigno and Craig Corton is because he was the anti of them. Now, he was more of the sports nerd and more reserved. He wasn't as hot-headed as those other two and didn't veer off of sports as much as those two. But putting Tiki Barber with Evan Roberts, like you said, it's going to be very boring, especially for the afternoon drive. It's going to be sitting in traffic, listening to those two is not going to be easy.
Too bad they couldn't bring back Chris Carlin.
That would be interesting, but the guy I had actually coming back would be JJ, John Jastrzemski. I think he would have been perfect, Evan and JJ, because both are sports nerds, so you stay on point with the sports, but JJ brings some of that passion and energy and fieriness that Evan doesn't have, so I just think it's going to be really watching like two snails with Evan and Tiki knows his stuff, but he is boring, like you said, so BT and Sal, it's going to be a fiery show like old school WFAN probably, but it does have a chance to blow up as well, Nick. I mean, it's no sure thing that it's going to be an amazing show. We don't know that yet.
Tiki does know his stuff, but it's like he doesn't have that personality to make people interested in listening to him.
Did you know that Tiki didn't know anything about baseball when he got the job? He had to be taught by Brandon Tierney.
Yeah, and I'm sure Brandon's a little upset about not getting promoted, but maybe he preferred to stay early. He's got kids and stuff, but he did. I know they've been working together for 13 years, and he taught kind of Tiki everything he knows. Obviously, Tiki knows football, but that was really it. So Brandon Tierney's...
Like I say, I think that was a color thing. I hate to say it, but I think that's what happened here.
I mean, who knows? You never know.
Tierney should have got the job for sure.
Well, yeah, Tierney would have made more sense because he would have complemented Evan better. So, we'll see what happens. I think it was a big mistake, and I think it's going to blow up in their face. But anything else you got for us today, Nick?
I know we're up against the break. I just got one more thing to say to you guys. Just say no to Taylor Swift, okay?
What'd you say about Taylor Swift?
Say no to Taylor Swift.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
I've said no.
No. All right, I'll talk to you guys.
Oh, wait, Frank's got something to say to you.
Why is that, Nick? What's wrong with Taylor Swift, if you don't mind asking me?
She's overrated.
Oh, I got a better question. What's right with her? I mean, the music is so bland. You can go out to the back catalog
She
and get
has
some
some very good
Rush,
songs.
Anybody.
Her concerts look fun, but I don't know if
she's not
interested in
everyone's
going.
cup of tea, but she does make good music. But it's okay if you don't like her.
Thanks for bringing up Taylor Swift, Nick, because this is a perfect segue about into
right.
what we're about to do. But we appreciate your call as always, and
hold the phone, Nick. Hold the phone, Nick.
And we'll talk more about this next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a good one.
All right,
Bye.
thank you,
See you,
Nick.
Nick.
Take care, guys.
And on the topic of music, why not? We're going to head into a short break here. We will not be playing Taylor Swift, folks. Sorry about that. But in the meantime, we're going to play a track instead from the year 1978. Back after this.
Been through. Please don't talk about all the plans we had.
All right, we're back, and we're going to switch gears here a little bit, start talking some NBA, and Ja Morant, obviously, moron he is, facing a 25-game suspension after his first suspension, which was 8 games, and you know what? He deserved it.
He's lucky it's not 40. I thought that's where they were going.
I thought they were going to do 50.
The way Adam Silver was saying how he has to wait till the end of the NBA Finals to not take away attention, it looked like he was going to throw the book at him. 25, I would have went 40 personally, and I love how Ja's camp is like, oh, they're out to get him. First of all, no, they're not. The first time was a slap on the wrist. 8-game suspension, not a big deal. Now you only get 25. So hopefully, he stays out of his own way, gets the help he needs, surrounds himself with better people, because obviously the people he surrounds himself with get him in trouble. So, yeah, I hope he gets his head straight.
Yeah, what an idiotic statement from his camp. I mean, they're out to get Ja. No, first of all, who was out to get Ja is probably his camp, his boys, himself. He's always in his own way. His boys get in his own way. And, look, it's a major problem. And, Adam Silver, you're right, a little dramatic there, waiting until, he had to wait till the NBA Finals. He made it sound like it was like some
whole season.
Some big news coming out, but Ja Morant is really a moron, because after his second suspension, it was found a day later, him taking a video playing with a toy gun. I don't know what this guy is doing. I don't know if he has some mental issues or what he's got going on, but the guy is making more money than anybody will see in their lifetime, and he continues to do childish, stupid stuff, and he's I don't know what is wrong with this guy.
Well, money doesn't equal maturity.
Well, that's true. But he also cost himself a max contract last year. Could have made an All-NBA. Was in line to sign a 5-year deal for $200+ million. And now you look at it like this. Like, as great of a player he is, as talented as he is, how long will the Memphis Grizzlies organization want to tolerate this for?
Not much longer. I really don't think they should. And speaking of Memphis, Ja Morant is not exactly from the trenches of Memphis, people. He is kind of privileged, private schools, all that type of stuff. So he's just a wannabe wise guy. He's a big, tough guy, and he's losing a lot of money. He's losing a lot of respect. He's potentially losing $60 million total over these next couple years. This year he's not going to be able to get playoff incentives and all that type of jazz. Last year the guy made $12 million, so still a lot of money, acting like a fool. But Sean, the NBA is very against gun violence. We know that. They don't like to mess around with guns.
Especially in 2023, that's like a no-go for them. So it's like Ja got very lucky, just needs to get his head straight. Will he? I doubt it. For his sake, I hope he does, because he's an entertaining basketball player to watch. He just needs to surround himself with better people. He needs to find a new friend group, find new people to be around, because it's not.
Well, he needs to take responsibility.
You need to move. Of course. You need to move different, Jessica. You need to move different. You're 23 years old, making all this money. You're not that kid. You're not that boy from Tennessee. You're not 15 years old anymore. You're 23, making all this money. You're one of the highest selling jerseys in the NBA. You have your own shoe. And you know what's crazy about it is that Nike, when they got rid of Kyrie Irving for the anti-Semitic stuff, they replaced him with Ja Morant, who's looking like an even bigger fool than Kyrie Irving. They're both idiots.
And now, didn't Nike suspend his contract to get rid of it? So now it's Ja screwed himself out, and he just needs to get his head straight. He just needs to get back to playing basketball and only worrying about that.
He's a loser and he's a liar, because the reason he's facing 25 games is because he lied to Adam Silver. Let's face it. He told Adam Silver after that first suspension he'll be better, he'll get the necessary help that he needs. And you know what he did, Sean? He spit in his face. He did the same thing again. He's going to do the same thing again.
He went to rehab for 3-4 days and suddenly was surprisingly healed.
What was the rehab for? Rehab for what?
Rehab for being stupid.
Yeah, just get himself in rehab, make sure everything's okay mentally, stuff like that. And he was out of there in 3-4 days, and suddenly everything was okay.
It's a stress rehab.
Yeah.
And
by the way,
wait a second, stress
rehab.
So
what was the rehab for?
What is he stressed about? The guy's making.
He's a millionaire.
Listen. That doesn't mean you don't have stress. Okay.
Well, does he? Is he?
It's just
okay. But no one's going on the street waving a gun.
Poorly. No,
Who's more stressed, Jessica? Him or the average guy?
Working the 9 to 5.
Of course, listen, I'm not saying that he has the same stresses, but people in very certain positions with a lot of money, they get their own stresses. That doesn't excuse anything. Yeah. I am just saying, what was the rehab for?
Don't know, don't care.
Was it a mental rehabilitation?
I'm pretty sure it was. 'Cause
It
he was
had
out of there
to.
in a few days and still had the same problem.
It had to have been. Look, he's ridiculous. He's a clown, and we're gonna move on to some actual normal people in the NBA who don't have these issues. Obviously there was breaking news with the Phoenix Suns trading for Bradley Beal, for Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, and draft compensation. Now, does this trade make the Phoenix Suns NBA champions? Does it make them the best team in the NBA? Does it even make them the best team in the Western Conference? I don't think so.
Absolutely not. This deal gets them nowhere. Bradley Beal is a great player. Great third options have. Here's the problem. Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and now Bradley Beal are all predominantly scorers. You have no ball handler on that team. That team really has nowhere to go. You have no bench to help provide that structure. So where do you really go from here? It's like, yeah, great, you got Bradley Beal, but Bradley Beal's not the same guy anymore. He hasn't played over 60 games in the last 4 to 5 years. So it's like he's on the decline, and for them to basically just sign Bradley Beal gets them nowhere.
Couldn't agree with you more, Sean. I mean, so what? They got big deal Beal. I mean, he is, like you said, he's not durable. He played in 50 games last year. The year before that, 40 games. This guy is not reliable, and here's the key thing for me. He is not what you would call – you would classify Bradley Beal as a scorer. You would not classify him necessarily as a shooter. He is not what you would call a lights-out shooter. He is definitely a scorer, 3-level scorer, could score in the paint, in the mid-range, from 3, but – when people are trying to compare Kevin Durant's situation in Phoenix to the situation in Golden State, that is ridiculous to me. It's not even close.
How many All-Stars and Superstars has KD played with? He played with James Harden, Stephen Curry, Devin Booker. Like, how many guys do you need to play with and call yourself that guy? I'm sorry, as great as Kevin Durant is, he's not that guy. He'll probably end his career a top 15 player, but it's like, bro, how many guys do you have to surround yourself with just to win? It's not a good look on him.
It's not. And while we're on the topic of Kevin Durant, Sean, and durability, Kevin Durant might be less durable than Bradley Beal. He really might be. I mean, he played in 47 games last year. 47 games. The year before that, 55. Year before that, 35. And then 2019, he didn't play because of the Achilles injury. Now, in Golden State, he was durable. His last year in Golden State played 78 games. He was terrific. Then he tears his Achilles. Ever since then, the man has not appeared in 60 games. He has not done it once since leaving Golden State. He's not durable. Bradley Beal is not durable. Those are two of your best players. And these guys have not played together, Sean. They have not played. How are they going to get chemistry in their first year together if they can't even stay on the court?
And here's another thing. I'll tell you right now, the biggest mistake Kevin Durant made was leaving the Golden State Warriors. Because then what happened? He went to the Nets, tried to get his own team, get together with Kyrie. Oh, in Brooklyn, big deal. Got nowhere. They won one playoff series, and that was basically it. They got James Harden, which meant absolutely nothing for the organization. So it's like, it looks bad on Kevin Durant. As great as he is, he's one of the best offensive players to ever play the game of basketball. But he's not that guy. He's not that leader of the team. And I don't want to hear him. I don't want to hear people comparing to LeBron. He's not LeBron. He might be a better offensive player than LeBron, but LeBron is way more successful and way more durable than him.
And look, Sean, it worked out perfectly for him in Golden State because, like I said earlier, he was surrounded by catch-and-shoot deadly snipers. I mean, Kevin Durant could have the ball in his hands because Kevin Durant is also what I would call a scorer, not necessarily light. I mean, he's a good shooter, but
he's not a lights-out shooter.
He's not lights out like just...
Like Steph or Clay.
Yeah, he's a great, and not many guys are in all fairness, but he is a great scorer, and he needs the ball in his hands to create. He likes to do the off-the-dribble stuff. He likes to do the post-up stuff. He likes to cut to the basket. So when he was in Golden State, he could do all that stuff and then kick it out to a Steph, kick it out to a Clay, and it would just be lethal. You had a Draymond Green. Let's not forget that. In Phoenix, there is no Draymond Green. There's no depth. There's nothing there. After you get past those top 4 guys. And like I said, durability is a factor. Like I said, chemistry is a factor. And it's just Booker and Beal are not Steph and Clay. No. Booker and Beal are scorers. Steph and Clay are some of the best shooters we've ever seen.
No, Devin Booker's absolutely nasty. What he did in the playoffs is absolutely remarkable. But Bradley Beal isn't that guy anymore. He's aging. He's slowing down. He has injury problems. But here's another thing. through the Kevin Durant trade and now through the Bradley Beal trade, the fact that the Phoenix Suns have been able to hold on to DeAndre Ayton this whole time, despite the rumors of them wanting to trade him, is absolutely interesting because it's like they wanted to get rid of him. So is it the fact that they get cold feet and don't want to trade him, or is it that no team wants him?
Well, Sean, I'm not sure which one it is, but I will tell you that keeping him, they are locked into these 4 for the next few years. They have no first-round picks. They have no second-round picks. They got rid of 6. And that Bradley Beal trade was interesting. It was a weird one, but they gave up 6 second-round picks probably because they have no first-round picks now that I think about it. So they are wiped out with picks, wiped out of depth. They have 4 guys that they are locked into. So if they don't get it done, they are kind of screwed for the future, Sean, because it's going to be hard to, these guys have massive, massive contracts, and a guy like Bradley Beal has a no trade clause. It's just, they better get it done. I just don't think they will.
It was last season too, and it is this year. Championship or bust time for them, and I don't think they're winning it all. They're not better than the Denver Nuggets at all. So I don't really see a path in where they'll probably be a good regular season team. They'll probably win around 50 games. Sure, they'll look good with second, third seed in the West, but they had 2 straight playoff embarrassments to the Dallas Mavericks and then to the Denver Nuggets. So it's not looking good for them, honestly.
They're going to be fun. They're going to be flashy. But like you said, they're not going to beat Denver. Denver has it all. They have cutters. They have shooters. They have championship DNA. They have defenders. They have grit. They have a coach. When you look at Phoenix, it's all flash. It's all glam. And here's the thing. They're not going to be able to stop anybody. We saw it in Brooklyn. Oh, Brooklyn, they got this big 3, 3 Hall of Famers, blah, blah, blah.
Couldn't defend anybody.
Couldn't stop a nosebleed. I mean, the Brooklyn Nets, you could score on anybody, but could you stop anybody? This is the NBA, buddy. Everybody scores
Everybody
nowadays.
can score.
Everybody scores 20 points a game nowadays.
You have games that end 130 to 125 in today's NBA regularly, so it's like you need defense on your team to be able to become a championship level team. But here's another thing, because you just mentioned how Denver has great coaching. Why in the world did they fire Monty Williams in the first place?
I don't know.
And now Frank Vogel is a great coach. He's a championship coach. I get that. That's great. But why fire Monty Williams? It's not his fault that this team embarrassed himself 2 straight years. I get Matt Ishbia is trying to go out and do these landmark trades to bring a splash for himself as an owner and put his team in win-now situations. But the longer you go without a ring, it looks bad on your team, because not only are you're jeopardizing your present-day team, but you're jeopardizing your future because you have no moves left to make.
Yeah, Frank Vogel, whatever. I mean, it feels like he's been gone forever since that championship. I mean, you look at Denver, Malone has been there the whole time. You look at Golden State, Steve Kerr was there forever. I mean, just bringing in Frank Vogel ain't going to save the day, believe me. So, we'll see what happens there. But the better question is, we both don't necessarily love this trade, Sean. So where do you think he should have gone, Bradley Beal? Which team do you think should have stepped up and paid the price for Bradley Beal?
The Los Angeles Clippers.
Really? Why?
Why I say that is, even though we just discussed Bradley Beal's injury prone, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard are injury prone on a way bigger scale. And I feel like incorporating him on that team provides them a third consistent scoring option if Kawhi decides to sit out, which he does every other game, and if Paul George is in or out the lineup, it provides them some scoring stability.
I mean, I could see that because things clearly haven't worked out. Steve Ballmer thought PG and Kawhi was going to be, everything and more. And you're right. They have shown that they do need another scorer, and Bradley Beal certainly is that scorer that could have made sense with the Clippers. But for me, I'm going out east, and I think that the Milwaukee Bucks would have been a better fit and the best fit for Bradley Beal because obviously, we know Chris Middleton's future is up in the air in Milwaukee, and there is a world where he might not be back, and you know what? He probably won't. So, if you insert a Bradley Beal, a real 3-level scorer, into a lineup with Drew Holiday, with Giannis Antetokounmpo, with the depth that the Milwaukee Bucks have, Bradley Beal kind of checks all the boxes for Milwaukee. He gives them what they really haven't had because Chris Middleton, we've seen him be a 20-point-per-game scorer. We know the defense. We know all that stuff. But they haven't had, even in their championship run, Sean, they haven't had that score. Giannis is amazing. He puts up 30 points, but he's not necessarily a 3-level scorer. Bradley Beal gives you that.
But it's like, that's an interesting trade. My only problem is, like, what are you left with? Because if you just bring in Bradley Beal, Drew Holiday is a great player, defensive player of the year level talent, but he's not a consistent offensive option for them. And looking at that like Bucks lineup, it's like a lot of those other offensive players like a Grayson Allen or Pat Connaughton are hit or miss. So bringing in Bradley Beal, you need assurance that you need another third guy that could score offensively. I don't really see Jrue Holiday as that guy, as great as he is defensively.
But Milwaukee has already won the championship without a scorer like Bradley Beal, and with Chris Middleton leaving, I'd say Bradley Beal is Chris Middleton's a better defender than Bradley Beal, but Bradley Beal is a more explosive scorer than Chris Middleton, and I think he'd complement that backcourt with Jrue Holiday. I think they'd feed off each other, and Giannis would create for Beal, and I just think it would be a much better fit than Phoenix. Phoenix, it caught me by surprise, to be honest with you. Like I said, fun and flashy, but before, we've got a little bit of time left here. We're going to transition to some WWE talk, Sean, and obviously a big headline. The Bloodline is now over.
The Bloodline
officially over.
Officially over because the Usos have turned on Roman Reigns. Great segment on SmackDown with Jay and Jimmy going at it. Jay saying Roman is the reason I became main event Jey Uso, the reason why I'm Jey Uso and no longer an Uso twin, basically saying now I have my own name. And it's all thanks to Roman Reigns. Goes up to Jimmy Uso, says, "You're out of the Bloodline," and then backs up. There's that dramatic pause for a few seconds. "I'm out too." Big super kick to Roman Reigns, which Roman Reigns sold like death props to him. And now we're on the way to Solo and Roman against the Usos at Money in the Bank.
That was a sick segment because I don't know about you, Sean, but I was caught off guard when he said to Jimmy, "You're out." I did not expect him to turn around and do what he did to Roman. I thought the WWE did a great job. Now, the only problem I have is that why do it on SmackDown, right? Maybe wait until SummerSlam to do something like that. I mean, the crowd was going absolutely berserk, but imagine that at a pay-per-view, Sean. Just imagine it.
I mean, they could have waited till Money in the Bank because I feel like what they're going to do at SummerSlam, if I had to bet on it, is Roman against Jay. Because the way Jey Uso, that's how the whole Bloodline story began of Roman against Jay, and then Roman eventually getting Jay to acknowledge him and fall in line with the Bloodline. So it goes full circle now, going on 3 full years of it's now back to Roman and Jay, how it all began.
Well, look, I'm glad you brought up Money in the Bank right there because, as we know, it is going to be the Usos versus Roman Reigns and Solo Sikoa at Money in the Bank. And to be honest with you, Sean, I have the Usos winning this match.
I have the Usos winning. I'm going to predict that Jay pins
No,
Solo.
Roman Reigns got to win.
Nope. Sorry, Jessica.
I think.
Oh, come on. He's got to win.
I think.
He makes me hot.
Wait. Jessica,
Go
why
ahead,
do you
go
like
ahead.
Roman Reigns?
Why?
What do you
Look
like?
at him. Oh, my goodness.
There it is. What about his fight style do you like?
He wins. I guess that's all that matters.
Anything else
But,
besides his
She just
winning?
Frank. She just likes how he looks. That's it. That is what it is.
He's definitely a sight for sore eyes.
But she said John Cena's not her type.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
man.
doesn't have to be my type. I told you guys.
Look.
Roman Reigns, he owns my heart. That's it.
It is what it is. But
I hear.
but I think
I hear you.
But
I hear you,
but
Jessica.
I do think that yes, the Usos will win this match. Sorry, Jessica.
I think Jay pinned Solo. And an interesting part of that segment is right before it started, Jay was walking backstage, was walking to the ring, and he bumps into Sami Zayn.
Yes, and that was big.
And that it's called back to the build up to WrestleMania, how it was Zayn and Owens against the Usos, but Zayn always felt sympathy towards the Usos because they were blindly following Roman Reigns, and so was Sami Zayn. But Zayn eventually realized that, and he tried to convince the Usos that, you guys are blindly following him. He doesn't care for you guys. And now that was like the realization, the first foreshadowing of like Jay interacting with Sami, and now Jay comes to the realization that Sami was right the whole time.
Yeah, and that was a little nugget that, you WWE fans had to pick up there right before the big finale, which is that don't forget Sami Zayn was part of the Bloodline and he left as well. So it was kind of that, that eye contact. You have to pick up on these little things. But yes, I do think the Usos will win because I think the WWE is what they're going to try to do is show that Roman Reigns is beatable now. Mm-hmm. Right? Roman Reigns was not beatable when he had the Usos by his side and Solo by his side. It's kind of like when you look at Rocky IV with Rocky and Drago. When Rocky cuts Drago, it shows that he's human. It shows that he could be beat. Roman Reigns, much like Drago, seems like this, this huge force and intimidating presence, and he was unbeatable, Sean, for the longest time,
well over 2 years.
And now this is how the WWE is planning to do it, in my opinion.
And now it's slowly falling apart. And what did Cody Rhodes say in the build up to WrestleMania? Eventually, it's going to be you all alone. and now it's finally playing itself into fruition. So I don't.
So wait, are they planning his downfall?
I
Yes,
think they
the
have
end of his
been.
legacy?
Yes.
They've been doing
Yeah,
that.
we're nearing the end of the title reign, whether that's sometime this year or at WrestleMania. We're nearing the start of the end of Roman Reigns.
Why? Why do they gotta do that?
Find a new man, Jessica. I was gonna say, Sean, quickly, a couple minutes left here. Is that what do you think about Cody Rhodes teaming up with the Judgment Day on Monday Night Raw? Do you think you think it was just kind of like a one-time thing, or maybe planting a seed for something?
Zayn and Owens and Cody against
I mean against the Judgment Day.
Against the Judgment Day. I don't really feel like that's much for Cody. I feel like that's just a further build up for him and Dominic. One interesting thing with the Judgment Day is that I feel like Damian Priest is well on his way on the babyface front. You know, him and Finn Balor now for a few weeks. They've emphasized on TV that they have friction between them two, and I feel like Damian Priest is well on his way to a babyface run, and they'll find a replacement for him in Judgment Day.
Yeah, I mean, I see that they are doing that, but I think it's time for Finn Balor to get a little bit more back in the championship run here. It's been a long time, Sean, since he's been champion. You know, it's been a very long time, and he's very popular and very good wrestler, and I don't know. I think it's time for him to get back into the mix.
Well, it's him and Seth Rollins at Money in the Bank. They really started putting emphasis this week on TV on building that matchup, and I'm sure Seth Rollins will win.
He's gonna win.
Yeah, I wouldn't take the title off of him this soon, but I feel like this match with Seth Rollins is just further dissension within the Judgment Day would happen after Balor loses.
So, you know, like I said, Roman Reigns, he will end up all alone, but it's gonna be interesting. What do you think happens with Wiseman, with Paul Heyman? What do you think happens with him?
I think Heyman sticks with Roman until the end.
All right.
Until the wheels fall off. I think it'll be Heyman by Roman's side the whole time, even if it's just them two eventually.
Yeah, and having Heyman, it's okay. It doesn't really, because he's not like the Usos. He doesn't, like, he's not going to come in and save him and wrestle guys. So keeping Wiseman is like something they could at least leave him with Heyman, I guess.
Right. And Roman doesn't need he doesn't need Heyman for promos. Roman doesn't need him, so it's like it's not the same purpose as significant as Heyman was to Brock, for example. So I just feel like till the end they'll keep Heyman with Roman, and then when the title reign is over, they'll find something else for Roman to do.
Well, look, folks, we'll see what happens. This is all a build-up to WrestleMania 40, like I said last week. Will Roman Reigns lose the title to Cody Rhodes, or will he beat Hulk Hogan's record as longest day as?
He'll beat it.
Well, we'll see. I don't know, Jessica. He's losing his squad as we speak, one by one, domino after another. But, folks, that's all we have for you today. And we thank you for listening to the Bret and Sean Show on the WBCR radio station, and we'll catch you guys next week at 1 o'clock. Take care, folks.